Hey guys, this is the third build I'm showcasing this league. It's a cast when damage taken. It's a play on what the original creator NNN did last league. His build was mostly based around hatred stacking and using Indigon to scale up the damage. For our case, due to harvest nerfs and blade blast nerfs in general, we have chosen to use battle mage instead, and using Inquisitor and Corrupted Soul to split the damage and having a high life regen and high ES regen to sustain the Heartbound loop. So I mentioned that we're using Battle Mage to scale the damage. So we're not taking Battle Mage on the tree. What are we using? We're using the Martyr of Innocence. It gives a sizable amount of fire damage, fist damage, gives some block chance, and a lot of damage penetration, also with the Battle Mage modifier, so that way we don't have to use 2 Ascendancy points for it. Next on we have the Hubris Circlet. Hubris Circlet has additional blade volley. This will help you with getting more blades on the ground for your blade blast to do the damage, because essentially everything that's not blade blast is on a level 1 cast on damage taken setup. A level 1 cast on damage taken setup has a huge less multiplier on the damage it does. So we have multiple level 1 setups and one level 20 setup to do big damage. So besides the enchant, looking for high life, some resist, and you also want concentrated effect. So this will help with the blade fall. When you reduce the radius, the blades get more concentrated, and when blades get more concentrated, you have more overlaps using blade blast. Next up we have our chess piece. Generally you're looking for high life as well. You want an additional curse, so this will allow us to put a damage curse on top of the temporal chains that we'll be putting on later. We want to get the open prefix, so we can craft on gain 10% of maximum life as extra maximum energy shield. This is basically a 10% multiplier on our effective health, which is really good. Next up, we have our gloves. This kind of makes the whole build work, where you see all these juicy explosions. It's the Ascendancy's Gentle Touch, so this gloves curses enemies with temporal chains. This will help with defenses and has a nice and juicy life and mana roll. But the most important thing is that the corpses explode, dealing 3% of their life as physical. So the 3% will be scaled up via our physical modifiers, and then we'll convert it over to fire. We have about a 90% fire conversion rate, and then that amount will be further scaled through our fire modifiers. So next up we have our boots. It's basically just high life, high movement speed, and decent resistances. You want to run Uber Lab to make sure you get the life regeneration mod. Because of Heartbound loop, we are always taking damage, so we are always being hit. So this way we are constantly getting a 2% life regen because of this enchant, which is really strong. Next up is the Replica Aziri's Foible. It gives a crap ton of life regen, life recovery rate, maximum life, and items and gems have 25% reduced attribute requirements. This will save us many suffixes on our gear, so we don't have to get attributes on it, and also on the tree, because we are pretty dexterity staffed, so this will help a lot. Next up, we have the main star of the show. It's the Heartbound Loop Ring. I gone ahead and got a corrupted one. Actually, I corrupted this myself, so it helps a lot with elemental resistances. Since we are using a lot of uniques, elemental resistances, we're kind of starved from that, so we're gonna get as much as we can, so this is really nice. Main thing here is that you take 350 physical damage on a minion death. How are we using this to loop? So how do we sustain it? Keep the loop up. We have a level 8 summon skeletons, and we use the anomalous version to ensure that they will always expire and they won't get killed. If they get killed, you may not get the 350 damage taken, which will break the loop. You link it to a level 1 diversion cast when damage taken. Keep in mind this is the diversion version, which has a lower damage threshold to recast the skills again. We have it linked to Awaken Swift Affliction due to the reduced duration of skills, and minion speed, the anomalous version of it, so we have additional reduced minion duration as well. How we are getting exactly 0.2, which is just below our cast and damage threshold, is also adding 2 to dust jewels. Basically mine are 16 and 18, but you can go for 17 and 17, or basically an accumulated between 2, you want 34%. So next up we have our second ring. You also want a lot of resist on this, decent life, and you want life gain on hit for each enemy hit by your spells. This is especially important because if you're firing so many spells, you get back so much life gain on hit based on this modifier from Shaper Rings. Next up, we have our belt. We're using a Torrent's Reclamation. If you're on a budget, you could basically halve the budget of the build by using a Flow Untethered or even a Elder belt with max life, percent max life, and life recovery rate. That would be the more defensive option, but you're losing out on the speed that the Harbinger of Time gives you. So what this gives us is the cooldown recovery rate, life recovery rate, and ES recovery rate, all perfect for trying to sustain life and ES regen, which is needed for the Heartbound loop. So next on we'll move over to the Flask. Basically it's just offense and defensive Flask, Diamond Flask Warding, Quicksilver for utility, Cinder Swallow for sustain and more damage, and also you want to get the 3% life regen one, so that will help sustain our Heartbound loop. Aziri's Promise for some Chaos Rest and damage, and Wise Oak for some defenses and also damage penetration. So after that, what we're looking at now is our cluster jewel setup. So for a large cluster, basically this is a kind of suboptimal, but I just had it in my inventory, so I just put it on. For mediums, you're looking for Magnifier and Titanic Swings. We're also making use of Martyr of Innocence being a staff to get Titanic Swings, since it's one of the better notables. And we're having 2 identical ones for the medium cluster, and for the small cluster you want to get Enduring Composure. Like I said before, we're always getting hit, so we'll always be getting endurance charges, so this will help a little bit with some fist mitigation. So how are we splitting the damage between our ES and our life? We use Corrupted Soul from a Glorious Vanity, Doriani's Jewel, and essentially we gain 15% EHP and 50% damage split between Energy Shield and life. How we make use of this and take advantage of it is taking Pious Path on the Inquisitor tree. So essentially Consecrated Ground will give us life regen and ES regen, and when we scale up our life regen we get a crap ton of ES regen as well as granting us immunity to elemental ailments. So how do we get the loop up and running? Your weapon swap, make sure you have a really high armor base shield. It could be a rare, or you could just get the unique. I used a Lion's Eyes Remorse that was high enough to mitigate so much of the 350 physical damage taken that it stops the loop. For your weapon, you want to use a Essence of Insanity. So these spectral spirits that come up when you equip an item, all of them will expire when you weapon swap back onto Martyr. Thus, you take damage and start the cast when damage taken loop. So what we have in our gem setup is Purifying Flame, Wave for Conviction, Assassin's Mark. We use Diversion, Purifying Flame to increase the damage taken, Wave for Conviction for fire exposure, and Assassin's Mark for power charge generation and increased damage. For our Bladefall setup, we have Awakened Spell Cascade for more blades and Diversion Blade Vortex for even more blades to explode on. Yep, and Blade Blast gains AoE whenever you explode a Blade Vortex blade. So there are a couple map mods which are big no-goes. First one is Alley Reflect. Second one is Vulnerability, because if you don't have your warding flask up all the time, you're gonna kill yourself due to the amount of fizz damage we take. Thirdly is less recovery, and last is no recovery. So essentially just avoid these map mods and you'll be fine. Budget wise, I wouldn't say this is exactly a really good build. It started off more as a meme, but I tried really hard to get it to do simple bosses, tier 16s, and even try to attempt 100% Delirious map. And I think everything put in is about 30 plus to 40x, but if you take out the Torrent's Reclamation, which basically is like half the value, you can get it down to like 20 plus. Alright, hopefully you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll be playing this on my Twitch channel. I'll link it in the description, and drop me a like and follow if you enjoyed the video and the build. Alright, see you guys. Bye bye.